What's going on, everybody? My name is Aiden and welcome back to another video. Ladies and gentlemen, it looks like the Chicago Bulls and Josh Giddey isn't as, easy and maybe predictable as people might have thought. Basically, everybody assumed the Chicago Bulls were going to give Josh Giddey the exact money he was looking for and that this deal would have been over right as soon as free agency began, maybe even before it. But as of today, right now, I think we're on day 6 of free agency. The Bulls and Josh Giddey have not come to that agreement. Will it get worse before it gets better? Will they find an agreement? Or things about to get ugly and just completely unsavable? Let's talk about it in this one. But before we get any further, if you liked the video and you want to see more from me, drop a like, drop a follow, and or subscribe if you are new. And let me know in the comments below what you guys think about this whole Josh Giddey and Chicago Bulls situation. Do you think it is good that the Bulls are ultimately making contract negotiations and not just folding and giving Josh Giddey the money that he wants? Or do you think this is going to turn ugly and break that relationship between the player and the organization? Because there's a fine line, in my opinion. Now, this is coming from Australian sources, and I don't necessarily know how true or false this is, but apparently they are miles off in terms of their current agreement or what they're looking for and what the team are offering, and that they're closer to reaching a stalemate than an actual agreement. Now, again, I don't know how true or not that is. I don't. And just because he's Australian does not mean the Australian news sources are accurate. What I will say is, if this is true, I am worried. Big time. What I will say is, though, it is good that the Bulls are at least having contract negotiations. At the end of the day, $30 million is a lot of money. Whether or not Josh Giddey deserves that money is a completely different topic entirely. But if you were able to save a few million here or there, that could be the difference in keeping a guy like Io or trading a guy like Io because you can't bring him back because you don't have the financial capability. That could be the difference in keeping Kobe White or potentially letting him go in next year's free agency. That couple million could be the difference. So the Bulls, with the power in restricted free agency here, should be doing the negotiations, should be trying to lower the contract down, and should be trying to find a happy medium where the player and the organization will both get what they want and they can both be happy to do so. I understand it from the business side of things, and it does make sense that the Bulls try to lower that contract down. But as I mentioned before, there's a fine line here. Because how much is too much money, to try to narrow down the contract? What happens if you decide to lowball Josh Giddey and potentially enter a really bad territory between the player and organization? Here's the thing, right? The Bulls do have the power. Josh Giddey, right now, there's no one else that is interested in Josh Giddey. Or, if there is a team interested in Josh Giddey, they're not interested in him for $30 million. So I can't see a competitor jumping in and signing in the first chance that they get. I can't see that happening with Josh Giddey. Maybe it will, who knows. But right now, we have the power in our hands. So we should probably try to take advantage of that. We probably should try to narrow down the contracts. But just because we have the power doesn't mean that we should be trying to exploit it to the max. Lowballing a player is not only very disrespectful, but it will break not only this relationship with Josh Giddey, it will break future relationships with other teammates, players that could be trying to come into free agency and everything in between. So we need to be very careful about that line. So let's say we do lowball Josh Giddey. We give him a ridiculously low contract, something that everybody probably knows that he's worth more than, and we keep him around because no one else was interested. Josh Giddey is not going to come into this season, happy, first and foremost, because he wanted more and he's not going to get that. Probably won't necessarily perform at the level you would expect. I mean, even if he does, it's more likely for a chance he wants to leave this organization rather than stay here for the next 5 years afterwards. So this player that's 21 years old that you think is the player of the future could be gone within 4 years' time with how we disrespect him tonight or today or tomorrow, whenever that contract gets signed. We need to be careful about that. If he is the player of our future, we should be treating him as such in many ways. So lowballing him to, let's just say 15 million or something, half of what he wanted, in my opinion, is a bad thing, and we should not be doing something like that. But yes, it will send messages to the rest of the league. Any free agent that we want, there will be I guess, a thought in the back of their head that if they want to come to Chicago, they have to understand that the organization might not give them the money that they're seeking. So it's a big, big game that we're playing. And ultimately, I do think it impacts the rest of our future. It impacts everything that the Chicago Bulls want to do. So is it a good thing? I don't know. When I hear stalemates and I hear reports saying that they're far away from an agreement, that does get me worried. But I hope, because we have the power, and most importantly, we have the time as well on our side. We have time and we have the power. We could try to find that happy medium. We could try to find the balance where the player is going to be happy and excited for the bag he's about to get, and he's going to come into the Chicago Bulls team feeling like the world is lifted off his shoulders and all he can do now is play basketball. That's all he needs to focus on. And I hope that's what we see. And then I also want to see a side where the Chicago Bulls are happy. They saved a couple of million here or there. They're able to bring back the players they need to, and they have more financial flexibility to make this team better outside of Josh Giddey. I mean, it's the perfect scenario. This is what we are trusting AK and the front office to do. This is what they're paid to do. To bring back players and to keep the team happy and to manage this team to the point where they get better every season. That is what we are asking the front office to do. That's what they're paid to do. So if somehow this fails, if somehow we lowball him and Josh Giddey doesn't want to be a Chicago Bull anymore, or somehow, some way, another team swoops in and takes Josh Giddey away from us, or somehow, some way they screw this deal up in one way, form, or fashion, it's another example of how bad this front office has been since they've come in. And that's the reception that they've gotten thus far. That's what people perceive them as. And it's only going to add fuel to the flames. So we need to make sure there's a happy medium. And that's what I'm hoping for. We'll see if we can do it. Again, time and power. We've got that on our side. Let's hope the Bulls can get this deal done sooner than later. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, drop a like, drop a follow, and or subscribe if you are new. I will see you in the next one. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay tuned for more. Take care, and peace.